I'm Jeff Byers, the instructor for any 258 game level design, and this is module 1, and we're working on modular assets. I went ahead and got the assets that I needed, so I created a modular asset list for doors and windows, walls, ceilings and floors, large blocks for our large temple, and our pillars and stairs. So that's basically what I need, the list I need. And I already created everything, and what I did was I made sure that in Windows settings preferences that in settings I am set up under working units in centimeter. That's super important that you're in centimeters. Click OK. There we go. And then the next thing I did, you can see I have numbers out here that will help me with scale. So I went to display under grid option box, and at the bottom the things I changed was I have 20 units across, so I changed that from I think it was 10 or 12 to 20, and then I went down to perspective grid numbers to on axes and orthographic grid numbers to on axes. That'll help with to get precise measurements, and I click apply and close. The first thing I did was I created a wall. Okay, basic wall will be 1 foot thick by 8 feet by 8 feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on poly modeling, click on the cube, and get everything set up. So what I need to do is I need to place I need to have grid snap on. So grid snap is on. All right. And what I want to do with that is I can then now go to vertex mode and just snap that like this, and then this like this. I don't want to snap it to the corner, and I want to snap it over 8 units. Okay, so basically what I've done is I've got that, I want that everything on the corner, right? So I'm going to go ahead and move that up so it's laying flat, and the corner is set up right here. Okay, 0, 0. That's super important. So now I'm going to go in here to the front view and move that up 8 units. Okay, so it's 8 units wide, 8 units tall. So basically I'm kind of following the rule of, it's divisible by 2. Okay. Alright, so you might have your center somewhere like in the center, but to change it we need to make it in the corner. I'll tell you why in just a second here. So I'm going to hold the V key, or the D as in dog, and the V key to snap. So I'm going to snap it to that point right there. The D as in dog and V as in vector, that means you can snap it to points of the model, vertex points. And you want it to the lower left hand side of the object, on every object. So you can see that I've got that on every single object that I have here, lower left hand side. Okay, and those will be my pivot points, so I can rotate this easily. Okay, duplicate it over, which is really cool. So I can duplicate it, hit the W key and do Control D, okay, and move it, and then I can rotate it into place, right? Okay, rotate it into place, and then of course I can move it now into place. Look at that. So that that allows us to rotate and position and move things in place. Okay. So basically, to do modular correctly, you need to follow those rules. Okay. You can create any scale or any size you want, but I'll give you a reason for creating these objects the way I have. Okay. So that piece is done. So I'm going to move that out of the way, or put it in a layer and forget about it. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in a layer and just forget about it right now. And the next piece I'm going to create is a window. Okay, so the window piece will be basically a cube, right? Same technique I used before, getting it positioned properly. So I get that positioned properly, make sure that my pieces are up. Okay, this time I'm going to do 2 up, and then I'm going to do 4 over. Okay, so that's going to be my window piece. Okay, my window section. I'm going to go ahead and go to the top view and make sure my vertices are moved over. Okay. Okay, and then of course my if I do that, then I don't have to really move my pivot point. It's already set up the way I want it. But if you have to move your pivot point, just hold the D as in dog and the V as in Victor, and you can move it any way you want. Okay. Alright, so that piece is done. Alright, so I'll move that to the side or put it in a layer. So I'll put that in a layer. That's the window. And then the doorway, so the door piece. Basically going to create another, continue the same process, okay. And yes, you can probably take pieces that you created and duplicate them, and then to create things faster. But I'm just going to follow this motion real quick. Again, we're going to go 2 over this time, and we'll move that up, and we'll move this up 8. Okay. All right. So there's basically my doorway. I'm going to go to the top view and move that over, and move that over. Okay. All right. So there's that piece is done, and the position of the pivot point is correctly created. Put that in a layer and put that off, turn that off. And then the pillar itself then will be a cube, again following the same techniques that we've done before. Okay, and there we are. There's our pillar. Okay, so get that in a layer. Okay, so now we've got our pillar, we've got our window, we've got our we got our door, we have our window, and we have our wall. Okay, so we got all those done so far. And then we've got to create the slab. The slab can be 3 things. It can be the floor, the ceiling, and the stairs. So the slab is a little different. It's not really divisible by 2, but we can make it work. It's divisible by 2 in the width and the length, but not the height. Okay, because we'll do 0.5, and that's usually 0.25. It'll still work. But it's not going to be as clean. Okay, so we're going to create a cube, right? And we're kind of forced this. We can't, when we put a collision on a 0.5, the character will walk up it. But if you put a collision on a 1 unit object, it will have to jump on it, and we don't want to do that. We want to be able to walk up or walk into a building. Okay. So unfortunately, we'll get its front foot caught on that, I believe, or it will stammer up. So again, it's going to be different. So when I create the cube, I'll have to create it from scratch. So go create polygon primitives and cube, and here we want to go the height to be 0.5. Okay, click on that, and you can see that works out pretty good. Okay, so I'm just going to have to raise it up to 0.5 to get it up on there. Whoop, that's too high. 0.25. and that'll get us started. I'm not too worried about this part because we're going to go too wide here and go to the corner. Okay, and then from the top view I'm going to go too wide here, bring that over, so there's our step. Step is done. Okay, place that in a layer. Okay, so now we've got everything positioned properly. Okay, all right, so there's our wall. One last one. That's the big monster cube. Okay, what I did was I took this one here and just basically duplicated it. So I'll put him back where he was. Okay, so I duplicated him and put him in position, and then all I did was go to the top view, right click over it, and that's the wall, and I turned it into the big cube that we're going to use, okay, for that object. Okay, the next thing I did to save time is I just renamed everything. So I renamed this to be large block 1, this to be wall, this to be floor underscore ceiling, this to be window, this one to be window underscore door, and then I could probably put yeah, that's what I want there, and then this one is pillar. This one I could probably add floor, ceiling, and stairs, just so I remember what it is. There we go. And so when I'm done, we need to make sure everything is in its own layer. Okay, so you'll place everything in its own layer, and you'll place it at the 0, 0 axes point. Okay, so 0, 0 axes, so everything's got to be zeroed out. Okay, so I'm going to place all these back in there. I got them renamed. I'm going to place them back in there, and I am going to put them in their own layers, which I have already done, and I want you to do that. So put them in their layers and rename those layers. They need to all, their corners and pivot points and axes need to be at 0, 0, 0 in the lower left hand corner. So and when you get all that done, we'll be able to hide those layers, turn those layers on and off when we're UV mapping. Okay, that's it for module 1. I will give you a quick demonstration at how you use these. You would use these modular pieces. Real quick in Maya, you would Control D this, move it up, and because it's a modular piece, you can see that's how your main temple would be built. Of course, then you would duplicate those over as needed. The walls would be your walls for your smaller buildings. So you could put those wherever you wanted to, and of course you could start duplicating these pieces. So that would be your doorway, and duplicate that piece. That would be your doorway, and this would be a pillar that you could use, and then your floor. This could be your window. Okay, so to move that over a little bit, so you can so I can give you kind of an explanation of how this would all work then. So this would be duplicated over to start your window. That would be duplicated over. Okay, and then duplicate that down, and then duplicate this over, and you can see how this is just like building blocks. So that's how you would create your buildings. Okay, so that's basically it. That's how you would put everything together. I'm just going to Control Z back as far as I can. There we go. Alright, so that's the idea with modular building. You just got to kind of strategize how you're going to put them together and then create them. And that's, I think those just 6 main building blocks, believe it or not, will and you can add more, but those are the building blocks you would need to create the entire all your buildings. You can make smaller pieces if you want. Just try to consider that you try to keep them divisible by 2. It's not a hard rule, but it makes things easier for you. Alright, that's it for this module. We'll come back and in part 2 to UV map, and then we'll texture. Alright.